What started as an exposure of the corruption in video game journalism was escalated by game journalists conspiring together to declare their audience, gamers, to be dead. Now you gotta raise an eyebrow at that, because gamers are a huge demographic. Hell, the gaming industry is bigger than the movie industry. Halo, Candy Crusher, Gears of War, Minecraft, World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, Bayonetta, Skyrim, Tetris, Angry Birds, and so on. And you want to just declare that they're all a bunch of basement-dwelling neckbeard virgins who have a problem with misogyny. Really? You, the gaming journalists, want to shift this from the customer is always right to the customers, a demographic as diverse as society itself. About 2/3 of the entire population are a bunch of degenerate losers, and you have no interest in providing media for them. Yeah, that's a rather unorthodox business plan there of pissing off and insulting their customers. And that led to quite a few sponsors of these websites deciding that maybe Operation Lemming really wasn't something they wanted the brand image of their companies being associated with. You see, most businesses care about one thing. It's called the bottom line, and in the video game industry, that's shifting units by making entertaining games, and boy, have they become good at it. Like all things, there are good ways and bad ways of doing it. By definition, the good ways become cliches and tropes, and only an idiot would suggest not using what has historically been shown to be the most successful storytelling devices. Well, now a woman who feminists have decided to financially elect as their representative in gaming have decided that these tropes are against women. They target women specifically in video games. Yeah, right. I think you might not have understood the very reason they became tropes in the first place is because they do appeal to people. You know, the chick flick, the slasher movies, dramas, and so on. But shouldn't we take this Anita Sarkeesian, the one who the gaming journalists declared to be the woman who killed gamers, seriously, I hear some ask? The woman who wants games just to be more oriented towards feminist ideals? Well, I can financially answer that one for you. You see, over a year ago, Anita Sarkeesian proposed this gaming concept, one free of all these sexist tropes that she thinks are oppressing women in gaming. And the delicious irony starts straight away in that her very own master's thesis would have deemed this game to be, wait for it, yeah, sexist. In her master's thesis, she proposes that most heroic women are basically men with boobs. And one of the tropes that she thinks degrades women in video games. And this is terribly sexist and gave rise to the title of her thesis, I'll Make a Man Out of You, Strong Women in Science Fiction and Fantasy Television. So, according to what she describes as gender traits currently valued on television, men have no negative traits, none whatsoever. There is nothing that a man can do that would be a negative trait.
That's a beating heart, isn't it? Pull off any one of 1,000 parts, she'll just die. Such a slender thread. You ever been raped?
She then goes on to describe how women shouldn't just be written as men with boobs, but as women with uniquely feminine positive traits. She even gives a useful little table of what she thinks this should be in what she describes as values for a more feminist landscape of what she thinks are positive masculine traits and what are positive feminine traits. Let's see. Her princess.
Be the protagonist of this particular adventure. She's gonna be... After her daring escape, she navigates the forbidding forest, leveling up her skills along the way. She discovers the inevitable yet unexpected plot twist. The Royal Council has usurped power and were responsible for her kidnapping. And she unlocks new disguises and stealth abilities to infiltrate the city walls. She makes her way through the final castle to confront the villainous council and abolish the monarchy forever.
Let's see. Her princess is rational, in control of themselves, self-confident, objective, independent, decisive, daring, strong, and active. Yes, she fulfills 9 out of 9 of the positive masculine traits, and maybe scores 1 out of 4 for positive feminine traits. And that's not just sexist according to these old values. This is sexist according to her new, more feminist-friendly landscape. Her very own gaming concept would be deemed just another deeply sexist trope by her own standards. Not only that, her game would fail the Bechdel test, a sort of barometer used by feminists like Anita Sarkeesian to see if something is sexist or not. And not only that, but almost all of the characters in the game are men. And you have almost no chance to talk to them and get to know them.
Since these women are just objects, there's no need or reason for players to have any emotional engagement with them. Meaningful relationships or interactions are not even possible.
So that's just one of many examples of games that do that, that sort of take advantage of this vulnerability to try to make players feel more intense, right? To make these worlds more gritty.
The game designers have intentionally created a world to invite players to explore this reality in which men who simply don't know any better and cannot be persuaded otherwise must be physically assaulted. Further, the story just conjures up this contrived plot in such a way that this physical assault perpetrated by women against physically inferior men is meant to seem as a justified and even altruistic act.
The core element remains the same. In each case, violence is used to bring these women back to their senses. These stories conjure up supernatural situations in which domestic violence perpetrated by men against women who have lost control of themselves not only appears justified, but is presented as an altruistic act done for the woman's own good.
And of course, there's almost no failed state in actually violently assaulting these men.
In this way, these systems work to facilitate male violence against women by turning it into a form of play, something constructed to be amusing and entertaining. Paradoxically, and somewhat ironically, those who most strongly believe that media is just harmless entertainment are also the ones most likely to uncritically internalize harmful media messages. In short, the more you think you cannot be affected, the more likely you are to be affected.
Now let's just ignore all of the hypocrisy and the irony for a second. Let's just focus on its financial success. How many feminist game developers or any game developers looked at this concept and thought, wow, that's a really good, original, and potentially profitable idea. We should develop that as soon as possible. Well, let me give you the long list. None, nada, zilch. And when you cannot even get bottom of the barrel feminist indie game developers to look at your gaming concept and say, yeah, that's a really good idea, we should develop that. Kind of difficult to see why we should take these same people seriously when they criticize a top-shelf product like Bayonetta 2. Oh, and boy, did the feminist frequency team back the wrong horse there. Everything about Bayonetta's design, mechanics, characterization is created specifically for the sexual pleasure of straight male gamers. Really, that's it. Specifically for the sexual pleasure of straight male gamers. Dear God, how can someone who claims to be a pop culture critic know so little about gaming culture? And I'll be discussing the reasons Bayonetta is so pernicious in my fighting fucktoy video. Bayonetta is the quintessential example of this trope. Jonathan McIntosh is also a pop culture critic and a producer and writer on the Tropes vs. Women in Video Games series. When Bayonetta 2 reviews come out, we'll very quickly see who actually cares about issues of sexual objectification and exploitation in gaming. For which we have game ratings 91%, Metacritic 91%, Destructoid 10 out of 10, Edge 10 out of 10, Eurogamer 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10, Famitsu 38 out of 40, Game Informer 9 out of 10, Game Revolutions a mere 3.5 stars, Game Radar 4 stars, GameSpot 10 out of 10, Game Trailers 9.8 out of 10, and so on. Oh, burn. And for some strange reason, this woman who the gaming journalists declared to be the woman who killed gamers thinks the only reason that people don't like her is because of hatred against women.
And there, right now, this reference of Gamergate is sort of this big culmination of these toxic harassment, this toxic harassment campaign that's been happening to me for years and to many other women. And so they're sort of lashing out and going after women in these horrible, vicious ways.
Yes, going after them in horrible, vicious ways by calling their characters, like Bayonetta, designed by a female character designer, fuck toys.
Sort of as trying to preserve gaming as you know, a male-dominated space, as the status quo.
What planet are you on? Planet Strawman? Let me get this straight. About 2/3 of the population are gamers, and about half of those are women. And your carefully honed pop culture critic skills lead you to believe that that's a boys' club. A boys' club which constitutes 2/3 of the population. And it's actually dedicated to keeping women out of gaming. Yeah, right. The reason you get the flack that you do is because of hatred against women. And it's not because of the utterly vacuous nature of your arguments.
Since these women are just objects, there's no need or reason for players to have any emotional engagement with them. Meaningful relationships or interactions are not even possible.
Or how she finds everything that everyone else does sexist.
They sort of latched onto this idea of journalism ethics, and that became something that sounded good. But it was a way for them to mask their sexist temper tantrum, where they've been going after women for years.
It's got nothing to do with how your black and white lie to people's faces. I mean, straight up inventing this violence against women in these games so you can be outraged about it.
So women who are watching this happen, who are watching me get terrorized for 2 years, are going to question whether they actually want to be involved, whether they want to speak up, and whether they want to participate.
Nah, it's just because she's a woman. It's not because she blames school shootings on the patriarchy less than 24 hours after a school shooting. Nah, it's because gamers hate women. Yes, tropes and cliches are like that for very, very good reasons. Just like successful businesses tend to have the motto that the consumer is always right. They are, by definition, successful ways of doing things. We like women in our media to be young and beautiful, just like we like our men to be strong and decisive. We like good versus evil, cliched villains, and so forth. Why? Because it's meant to be entertainment. This is not some social learning exercise. And the exact same thing goes for our games. We don't want Minecraft's Steve to be some fat out-of-shape guy who moves at 1/4 the speed to the Quickie Mart to pick up a family-sized tub of Doritos so we can learn about the terrible social burdens of being fat. Not because we've got anything against fat people, but because it's a game. We're playing these things for fun, for entertainment. We want Bayonetta to be some beautiful, sleek, stylish enchantress, and not some depressed, ugly, out-of-shape woman. Why? Because they're games. We play them for fun, for entertainment, and we don't want our video games to be the South Park version of Mormon heaven.
Well, you picked a great time. We've got cookies and punch, and we're just about to start playing charades.
And then Brother Stevens brought his guitar so we can sing songs about how much it hurts to lie.
Remember, Sally, when I promised to kill you last?
That's right, Major. You did.
I lied.
I don't care that in Deathmatch the whole purpose is to kill 20 people in cold blood as quick as possible without some moral lamenting about failed states or real-world consequences.
In-game consequences for these violations are trivial at best, and rarely lead to any sort of fail state or game over. Sometimes areas may go on high alert for a few minutes, during which players have to lay low or hide before the game and its characters forget that you just murdered a sexualized woman in cold blood.
I don't care that the point of Deathmatch is a race to kill 20 or so people in cold blood as quickly as possible. No, you're the first to kill 20 people, you win the deathmatch. And sure, I've got no more ethical problems about games featuring beautiful, sleek, sexy women than I do games having impossibly muscular men trying to do impossible things that will almost certainly end up getting them killed. But I'll tell you what does bug me here. It's those who claim to have the high moral ground and that they're outraged by sexy women in games, but have no problem whatsoever with all of the brutal murder that goes on in those exact same games. Oh yeah, selective outrage at its best. Now, I wouldn't mind so much, but these parasites have just attached themselves to the gaming industry, because of course the music and film industry and so forth, they never have stereotyped women or cliches or tropes, or of course stereotyped men for that matter. But for some unexplained reason, we're meant to be outraged when we get exactly the same thing in our gaming media. So if they're such worthless losers, why should I care? Why should I be making this video? Well, actually, no. This is really important. I've seen this pattern of social justice warriors attaching themselves to communities and destroying them before. It infected the Occupy movement and reduced it to a laughingstock within months.
Possible blocks are brought up.
What's a block?
A block is this.
And what's this? What's this? I saw this earlier.
It's a point of process. Let's say we're on an agenda topic. See, I might make a point of process here.
And I'm going to block that?
You can't
Okay,
block a point of process. A point of process over.
Well, then I don't feel good about it.
I'm sorry, Stephen. And part of why caucuses exist is to give a space for marginalized voices.
Are you a marginalized voice?
I am a female-bodied person, and that makes...
You are what? I'm sorry?
I'm a female-bodied person.
Why are you wearing the bra and the dress?
I guess I'm really interested in, like, semiotic entanglement.
One repercussion of constantly relying on feminizing signifiers for character design is that it tends to reinforce a strict binary form of gender expression.
And sort of loosening semioses. We have to be able to transcend the binary of, like...
The gender binary is an entirely artificial and socially constructed division of male and female into two distinctly separate...
You have to be able to transcend the binary of, like, the conventional politics. I don't know, like, that sounds really post-structural.
You just totally blew my mind right now.
Really?
Let's
he
talk
gave you
about...
fingers down.
Actually, I would block that one.
You blocked that one?
Block.
All I think is, but I point of ordered it.
Right.
And then I put it up for super consideration, and it passed over the stormy seas of your block.
And the same thing happened to the atheist community, where one woman's crusade against the misogyny of being hit on after hanging out in a bar till 4 o'clock in the morning was an outrage that the atheist community just had to deal with. And now we have Gamergate. Here, though, there is a real industry behind this, a multi-billion-dollar industry, and these social justice warriors have infected the gaming press, and now they're using that bully pulpit to pressure and bully not only other members of the gaming press that might not toe their agenda.
And I was told that I would get blacklisted in the industry when things went belly up on this stuff, and I'm beginning to see the beginnings that I was told that I would be vilified on the front pages of gaming journals if I got involved, and by God, that happened just last week, and while the folks at Kotaku did give me the chance to defend myself, and I'll always be grateful for that, that's exactly what that was.
But also game developers too. A bare belly was for some enough of a trigger to send our company enough hate and threatening mails to persuade my boss to ask me to change the cover. I did, but did so reluctantly, disagreeing wholeheartedly with the claim of the artwork being sexistic. The better half of me decided to meet the offended by design people somewhere in the middle. In the world of journalism, there are channels that take an aggressive stance against everything they judge even remotely sexistic, and in many examples denying the word of opposition by disabling criticism and reactions to their articles or blogs. Also, blackmail in the form of change your game art or we won't publish a single word about you is a common behavior found among those. I mean, previously all they had to worry about was making really cool games that people enjoyed playing. And now their job is a minefield of self-censorship for fear of manufactured outrage by professional whiners in the gaming press, promising to make their names mud if they don't appease the political sensitivities of the gaming press. This just sucks for everyone of consequence. It sucks for the consumers. You know, the gamers who just want to have their fun games. And it sucks for the game developers. As one I said to the other, something has come between us that smells. And that's it. That's the core of Gamergate. The corruption in the gaming press and the way that they've used their position to aggressively and publicly bully anyone who dares speak out against their little social clique. But hey, don't take my word for it. Take the word of the editor-in-chief of the gaming site Polygon, one Chris Grant.
And I think as a journalist, I was loath to take this formless, leaderless group and condemn it outright as one that I think is really a front for not only misogyny, but a sort of frustration with progressive voices and progressive ideals.
Misogyny? Voices of progressive ideals? What the hell are you on about? Newsflash, video games shouldn't be about progressive ideals. They should be fun to play. Now, many have seen the writing on the wall here and already pulled their support from these gaming journalist sites. Because sponsors, let's be real. How can you seriously support gaming websites that not only want game developers to match the political sensitivities and manufactured outrage of some liberal hipsters, and not support the gamers who just want to have fun games? Not only that, but how can you seriously support a gaming website that spits at its own customers?
Let's take a look at some of these journalists and what they've been writing recently. Oh, here's one. Somebody asked, what does gamer even mean to you? And the response from somebody who's written articles for Polygon and other sites, shit person who cares way too much about video games. That's great. Good idea to insult the demographic. When I think Polygon from now on, I'm going to think people who think I'm an asshole and don't like people who play video games. Oh, here's another classy game journalist. My Twitter is full of wound-up nerds proving my point all day. I love that as somebody who plays video games. To have the people who purport and claim to be fans of gaming and who want to write about gaming and work in the industry insult me. That makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
But more than that, these social hipsters won't just spit at their customers just to show what professional and business savvy folk their degrees in media studies make them. They will happily spit this exact same vitriol at their ex-sponsors. Failing to adequately cover this act of spinelessness was the first big fuck-up we here at Gorka committed. Intel surrendered to the worst kind of dishonesty. We allowed it to do so without ever calling it out. So let's say it now. Intel is run by craven idiots. It employs pusillanimous morons. It lacks integrity. It folded to misogynist bigots who buy Intel products. But let me add this to put the numbers into perspective. The hashtag Gamergate has been running at about 70,000 hits per day for a couple of weeks now. And in response, these social justice whiners and gaming press types started their own hashtag of Stop Gamergate 2014. And a couple or so weeks later, their social justice hashtag is getting about 1,000 mentions per day, while Gamergate is still going strong at about 60,000 mentions per day. That should just give you a rough idea of the market sizes of social justice whiners versus gamers. And that, I should stress, was with the full bully pulpit of all of their gaming sites trying to actually push this End Gamergate 2014 as much as possible. So there's a shout out to the companies out there. That's it. That's the core of Gamergate. It's the idea that games should be for gamers and not about some moral preaching of social justice politics pushed by a corrupt cronyism in the gaming media. That's it. That's the core of Gamergate. We are the gamers here. We're the ones who put the vast majority of the dollars per year that go into the gaming industry and the culture that surrounds it. We do that, and not the whiny morality police. We salute Intel and other companies who have pulled the sponsorship plug on these gaming sites that spit at their customers and at their ex-sponsors. And to my fellow gamers out there, gamers of every stripe, I say I would be very grateful if you could share this video wherever you can. Because as greater men than I have said, you can't win against gamers because we don't die. We just respawn.